Welcome to the Sultans of Sales podcast. I'm your host, Jamil. My friends call me Jay. Today on the show, we have Joseph Barnard, who we've recently come in contact together through LinkedIn, and thought it would be a cool opportunity for us to learn a little bit more about one another, and also talk about some of these new and interesting channels, such as LinkedIn as a way to connect and a way to grow your network and a way to improve your lives and the lives of those around you. Because I think that's something central to me and what I'm trying to do. And when you hear Joe's story, I think you'll feel the same. So Joe, thanks for agreeing to spend some time with us here. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about you and your story?
Hey, Jay, great to be here. Hello, everybody. Joe Barnard. I'm the executive director of the Ford School. We're a residential treatment center for teen boys ages 14 to 17 here in Benton, Tennessee, just a little bit north of Chattanooga. I started out as a pararescueman and combat rescue officer. I did that for 33 years in the United States Air Force. It was an eventful career, as you can maybe imagine from the titles of those job descriptions. So I was in medical most of the time of my life. And then I retired in 2016, got out, traveled Southeast Asia with my wife, who's a yoga instructor and my best buddy. And we could talk about her too. Everybody needs to get one of her. She's amazing. And then, ran a wireless construction company for a while. That was great, but really found my calling, getting back to service of others and helping these teen boys. Our teens are struggling. They're battling shame. I don't know if we're winning. It's sort of amazing what's going on out there. And COVID's only made it worse. And so we have just an amazing program here that we're trying to implement and help kids out. So great to be here, Jay.
Thank you. Oh my God. And I want to hear all about the program. That sounds just such an amazing thing you're doing for that community in Tennessee, but also for anyone that finds you. Interesting. If we can we dive into what you just said about how they're battling shame? Because it's interesting. We found each other on LinkedIn, and I think it was the travel aspect maybe of my background or whatever that was. But we're connected now and we're here, and I'm grateful for it. But I think part of the shame might be social media, which it's ironic. That's how I think adults are connecting. But when you're younger, and this is, again, I don't want to speak for you. What have you found that battling shame? I think that's a sad but true reality for our teens. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I mean, there's many creeks that feed that river. So there's family shame, there's parent shame, there's the kid shame. And our boys in the back there, they have developmental trauma. And, we're paying for sins of others here. And it's not necessarily parents. A lot of kids are adopted. Things happen to kids outside of the parents' purview that has affected them. And all the pressures of, you're right, screen time. We're detoxing them off screen time. We're detoxing them off vapes, and we're detoxing them off of junk food. We have a higher level of nutrition back here. That's one of the things that connected us too, is sort of healthy guys. I'm 56 years old. I don't plan on going quietly into the night. Been healthy my whole life. It's just, you have to be a full person as far as attitude, study, health, and performance, right? All four of those things, you got to work on them all the time. And so as you see kids not do that, there's 30, 40-year-olds addicted to their screens out there. And you can see them giving their screens to their 6, 7, 8-year-olds at the dinner table. And you're like going, oh man, this, you're changing the chemistry of kids' brains.
You really are. Yeah. My kids ask me why they don't have their own iPads. And I tell them, well, because the person that created this device, Steve Jobs, he didn't give his kids an iPad either.
Yeah.
We don't know the long-term impact and ramifications of this. And to your point, one of the saddest things that I see, and I actually just saw this yesterday, or was at brunch with my family and another family, and outdoor patio, Mexican food, right? It's what we do. And there was a dad there just on his phone. I don't know if he's watching the British Open or whatever he was watching, didn't matter. And his son was on his device, and don't even think they said a word to each other. And it's just like, I don't think we know what that does to that kid. And, you know, I'm not judging, because there have been moments, particularly in travel with kids, where you just need it. You need a little bit of distraction.
Yeah.
And I think, like anything in moderation, everything's fine.
Yeah.
But not as just a replacement. It's like a snack. You mentioned healthy foods. You can't just eat protein bars and snacks and think that that's nutrition, right? It's not a replacement for the meal. The meal needs to come from the conversation. And, you know, one of the things that my wife and I try really hard to do is be present and be there for our kids, because these are formative years. You know,
yeah, I love that. Like last week when you were at the beach with your family, you're like, "Hey, dude, I'll get back with you. I'm at the beach with my family." Yeah. I'm like, "Oh, this guy, good for him." Because
yes,
I'm telling you, man, we have a 25-year-old, 25 or 26, 25 and a 23-year-old, and they're out of the house, and we miss them every day. And you're like, man, enjoy them, be present with them. These electronics, listen, they're going to be part of their lives, right? Like, look at this awesome. We get to connect through electronics and all the stuff. But there's certain things that adults can do that kids shouldn't be doing. Or you got to titrate really slowly for effect of how you grow kids into these types of things. But many people are using them as a crutch and a replacement, and it is not good stuff going into their head through the screens that they're having. So we're completely electronic free here at the Ford School, and we get the boys outside. We got 55 acres here in Tennessee on the western side of the Smoky Mountains, and it's just amazing.
Gorgeous. I want to come. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, that
it looks like my office outside, like type deal, you know. It's Ford.
That's so great.
Yeah.
That's so great. I love what you're doing, and I'm grateful that I've found you, because if I can, you know, direct anyone that needs help, or really just needs a break. You know, you mentioned the beach of the family. Yeah. I mean, try to, other than taking videos and of my kids and family. And, you know, I think I probably did a few posts here and there, because it's hard not to. I just feel so just inspired when you're in nature. But that, what you provide to the community, I think is absolutely on point with what they need.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I'll tell you what, they're going to wind up dead or in jail. It's because the aggression's going to come out. I mean, it's the tale as old as time. Idle testosterone. There's nothing good about idle testosterone. It finds a way to fight, flight, or freeze, and none of those are good, right? We try to get them doing fun, focus, and forge, right, instead of fight, flight, or freeze. And so it's just really expanding their aperture to nature, and because the body remembers empathy, the body remembers care, the body remembers hunting and gathering. And when you could get folks out to do that type of stuff, they can come back. You know, like people can smoke for 20 years, right? And if you stop smoking for like a year and a half, there's like only 2% trace of smoke in your lungs. The body is an amazing thing if you do right by it. And
you're right.
If you do right by it.
You're 100% right. I mean, I'm living proof of that. I've kind of come into a recent, I want to call it a health kick, because it's more just how I'm living my life now. But about 2 years ago, made the commitment to really kind of focus on my daily habits and what I'm doing. And it started with the Made For program, which is run by one of my good friends, Pat Dossett, and he's a former Navy SEAL. And, you know, their mission is to improve the world through improving each person, and starting with small steps and small wins. And you hear a lot about, you know, BJ Fogg or these other people that talk about how to create positive habits. And, you know, I really, really focused on that. And now, you know, just like compounded interest, when you do something every day, when you're focused on how you're going to show up that day, be present for your loved ones, your work, family, whomever it is, it starts with you. It starts with me, right? Yeah. And being present. And just like you said, the body is an amazing thing, that if you do these things, whatever these things are, but if they are there with purpose and with intent and kind of geared towards a greater good, then It's amazing what can happen, not just physically, not even talking about that. I'm talking about the mental clarity, the freedom, right? The joy, all the things that come from that. It's been absolutely unbelievable. And I just want that for others.
Yeah, I agree. And it's sort of gets you sad how, you know, adult onset diabetes type 2, which is sort of from lifestyle, is just getting so prevalent from being sedentary. And listen, even if you're a computer programmer, you're in a cubicle farm somewhere, you're a banker looking at spreadsheets all day long. If you got up and did some body weight squats and did some burpees and did some push-ups and then went back to it, you're going to be better at that than if you just sat there, sucked down Red Bulls and, you know, tried to sort of push through it. So we're losing the quality of life, which is, it's a little scary to me because there's just so much benefits to being both mind and body, for sure. So,
amen. I
mean, you gotta, you know, it's not like, we got to have empathy for people and we got to not ridicule. And like in my former life, like it was so competitive and your buddy's a Navy SEAL, it's the same way. Judgment sort of comes in competition, and that sort of, that goes down the negative realm. And so one of the things I've really tried to work on is just having empathy and care and help and understanding and, you know, not ridicule and just, you know, like, you know, stay away from the negative side and get to the positive side and have hope for mankind. You know, have hope for these folks that are just not really doing good, well, health-wise, and like, all right, how do you eat the elephant? One bite at a time. How do you take your buds? One push-up at a time, right? You know, you get the lunch and then you get the dinner and then you get the breakfast the next day, and you just keep on doing that. So helping folks do that is sort of what we need to do.
No, I love that. And I'm right there with you. And I love to hear about that mission. And, you know, you mentioned attitude, studying, health, performance, when you were looking back as things that we need to do and kind of that helping to serve others. And is that something that was rooted, that you learned serving in the military?
Yeah, for sure. I think there was a little bit of that inside my house. My dad was really close with his brothers and sisters' husbands. And so there was 5 uncles that hung out, and there was like 12 of us boy cousins that hung out, and they took us fishing in places and surfing and things of that nature. So they always tried to make us better. And then the initial competition, when I got in the pararescue and I saw the guys, and they're just really smart and they're in shape and they're, you know, treating people good, and they have this, you know, such a sense of serving and treating, you know, and caring for people. I was like, oh man, you better up your game, dude, or else. And the job is such an attraction that you're like, all right, man, I really need that. I have to be doing this. I have to be flying around this helicopter. I have to be jumping out of this plane. I have to be, you know, learning these medical procedures. I have to be doing this type of stuff. So that's sort of the mantra I created for myself. I call it the 4 corners of clarity, where you're just always constantly working on. If your attitude, you just worked on your attitude good, okay, man, let me work on my health. If my health's good, okay, I better work on my cognitive study. If all that's good, then I better go put them all together and perform. And then, okay, then I did this. So I'm lacking on this one. I'm doing this over here. In the military, we called it part task trainer versus full mission profile. And a full mission profile would be infill, move, shoot, communicate to the patient, treat the patient, exfil. Well, an infill could be helicopter or parachute jump. So in part task training, you do that over and over again. So you do each part over and over again until you get good at the small parts. Then you put all the small parts together in a full mission profile. So that's sort of what I adopted for my life and what I tried to teach my boys as they were growing up. And so it's benefited me. I did pretty good in my career. And, you know, I tried to, as I got in charge and started to control bodies and money, I tried to, you know, give that to the troops that were under me.
It's awesome. You know, and I think that is, you know, I can certainly see that in it. Well, so taking what you just said, and then, you know, we don't know one another that well, but I absolutely, and I did not serve in the military. I definitely am, you know, grateful for people like yourself and people like my friend Pat and others And I try to, it's been interesting. A lot of what I do and a lot of the companies that I support, I veteran-owned businesses, right? If there's a veteran-owned business, like Oscar Mike is one of them. I love their gear, their t-shirts. It's on the go, right? It's for those that have been injured, who've lost a leg. And if I feel like for yourself, if there's any way that I can help, like bring awareness to what you're doing for that community, I want to do that. But I think taking it a step further, just into you, Joe, your post where you're diving out, it was recent. It was maybe last week. I'm trying to pull it up right now because, off mic, you and I were talking about LinkedIn and how literally that's where this started.
Yeah.
And your post about and I'm pulling it up now so attack your windshield. That's right. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Attack your windshield and stay in the light, have fun, serve others. Like, it's a great perspective that I see so clearly now. I'm 41 and I look back and I wish that I was living that way. I'm living that way now, but I want to just try to urge and compel others to do the same. Can you talk about that? Like maybe kind of where that came from, that post, and then maybe let's talk a little bit about LinkedIn, after that.
So, I mean, I've always had this VIG. Megan calls it VIG, Vigor for Life. And that photo was actually taken in a pool villa we were in Thailand. And it was on our 20th anniversary trip. We've been married 30 years this November.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks, man. And I'm sitting on the couch and, this big glass door opened up just to the pool. And I said before she took that photo, like she grabbed the camera real quick because I didn't know she was going to take it. But I looked over and I said, hey, why wouldn't you jump out of your living room into your pool? And so I just ran and jumped real high, and she caught the perfect photo with,
it's unbelievable.
With just amazing backdrop of Thailand. And I forget what sea that is back there. I'm not sure what town we were in. Around different areas, but
I'm going to try. This is so low tech, but if I can't figure out a way to put this I don't do any video editing. I just kind of press record and go, but that's the picture. I love the one take wonders, right? When I was traveling, I was bungee jumping the Nevis, which at the time was the second tallest in the world, in New Zealand, in Queenstown. And my buddy, Billy, my best friend who we're traveling with, we had I think either a disposable camera or a really cheap point and shoot. And as I jumped, he puts his arm out and took one picture, right? There wasn't and got the perfect photo of me jumping out, and just that was the bungee, that it's so tall that you have to swan dive out, or potentially the rope could get tangled. You have to commit to the jump. And it was such a awesome time for us. 25 years old, not a fear in the world. And that photo is similarly, when I saw your photo here, I love that it was in Thailand. We went there as well. Southeast Asia is incredible, but I wanted to learn more about that photo. So I love to hear the backstory.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's mostly what I say to folks. I like to get on LinkedIn and put positive comments and support people that have tags in my network on there and all that. And usually what I say is keep attacking your windshield. But sometimes it sparks a DM. If people are sort of in a negative headspace place, they're like, hey, I'm not sure what you meant by that. What'd you mean by that? Almost like I meant something like they weren't, or something like that, it's truly just a supporting comment to me. So that's why I sparked that post, because I sent something to one dude. I thought he was doing some good stuff, and man, he took it just completely out of context and came back to me on a DM going, hey man, I didn't like what you said. What do you mean? You don't think I'm doing good or whatever? And I was like, whoa, dude, completely. I think you just had a recent post, when you're walking on the beach, about sort of some of this stuff. Yeah. So I was like, all right, man, I'm going to stay in the light. I'm going to try to get you back into the light on this deal. And so, but that's truly what I meant, is just sort of inspiring and listen, man, if somebody blows by you and they're doing something that you don't like, I usually say, go get them, Tiger. Right? It's not for me. But man, if you're not hurting kids or old people, right? Not ripping somebody off for doing this. Man, that's the beauty of this country, to go out and do free will and sort of chip down and do positive stuff that you feel is positive, you know? So we got to use the judgment. This stuff, all this judgment that's going on is not good. And so I'm trying to break some of that.
It's not good at all. It's actually, yeah, you're right on. I was just responding to, you know, just some negative stuff, and you see it out there, these keyboard warriors. It's hilarious to me. And I mentioned, I kind of said that they're like those crabs in the sand, because if you try to talk to them or debate them or confront them, we'll just kind of go back in their hole, and they're not really in it for any other reason than just to make quick jabs and try to tear people down. Yeah. And I just think that, I mean, life is so short. It's gone. It's fleeting. It's just, it comes in this wave, right? And we are here and now today to try to improve. You know, this is how I've come to this realization that my life is about improving myself and the lives of those around me every day, and take steps and be intentional about it.
Yeah.
And hopefully by the end of the day, when you rest your head on your pillow, you've done a good job. And if not, that's okay, right? Re-rack, do it again the next day, right? You got another shot. Why would you spend any time, number one, trying to judge or harm or hurt others? And the other piece of that is that if you're the one being attacked, why do you let any of that bother you? Because it just is such a waste of your time and energy to engage in that vitriol. So
yeah, you got to be your own biggest fan, you know. But going back to the shame comment that we had on the front end, like our kids come here, and if you saw, like, you know, 14 to 17-year-olds, some of them have facial hair and they're big, you know, they're 6'2", 195 pounds back there, right? And you know, if you saw these kids acting up in a restaurant, maybe guys like me and you may be going, man, that kid just needs his ass kicked. What the hell's going on? But if you knew the trauma that they had that was creating this event, and they don't know how to handle it, and their fight is coming out, you know, our treatment model here is called CASA, commitment, acceptance, security, attunement. And it's an empathetic model, and it's meeting the boys where they're at. And you look at them, and even though they just punched a hole in the wall or broke something or flipped their bed over, you're like, hey, buddy, I believe you're doing the best you can right now. And it's meeting them where they're at and showing them commitment, having them accept you, having them feel secure, and then only the attunement can come in the deep work associated with them developing coping skills for not acting like that in the future and morphing back into sports, family, friends, society can happen. And so, you know, really showing empathy and trying to understand, like, so all these sort of meerkats that pop their head out of the hole and snipe and then go back in, man, that's all on them. They are struggling. They are struggling with some deep stuff inside that they're not happy with themselves about and all that. And so they're getting, you know, it's just like a drug dealer getting, you know, they got to chase that high. They're chasing a high by sort of ragging on or what they feel like tearing down others. And that's really what the receiver has to understand. You got to rise above it and just sort of move on and stay in the light.
You know, and I think the realization that, like, no matter what you or I or anyone does, even if we're absolutely putting out as much positive light as we think that I mean, there's going to be some people that just hate it, that just don't like you, don't like me. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I get it. I'm fine with that. I don't have to be. But what you just said is so true about, like, those kids, man. They we don't know. And this is, you know, when you're talking about mental health or, you know, mental illnesses, you can't see it, right? I mean, there's a lot of people that have things going on between your ears that it's not obvious, that they are, for lack of a better term, disabled because they can't cognitively or just rationally think things through. And they take getting bullied or getting made fun of or whatever, they take that so personal that they'll hang themselves. And it's sad. It's happening. You know this better than I do, likely. This is happening in 2020, and COVID has not been at all helpful for that. It's been adding, you know, fire to the flame.
Yeah, the stats that our company seeing, our company, Embark Behavioral Health, my parent company, they have 23 facilities around the U.S. right now.
Mm-hmm.
Stats we're seeing are like from 2019, no later than 2019, and it's pretty brutal associated with teen suicide. Mm-hmm. And so we have, our company has a BHAG, a big, empathetic, hairy, audacious goal of really significantly decreasing teen suicide rates by 2028. And that's not just with our company. We're trying to affect the industry that's doing this. I mean, it's just pretty brutal out there with child protective services and foster systems. And, you know, we're a for-profit company. We think you need to solve this problem with capitalism, not nonprofits and boards and things of that nature, because sort of the bureaucracy, we all know that, you know, entrepreneurs actually do a better job of solving stuff than bureaucrats do. And always. So that's how we're trying to tackle this thing. And, oh, by the way, our customers get to rate us and they get to give us Google reviews. And if we're not doing good, then guess what? We don't make money and stay in business, where the government just sort of throws more money at it to try to fix it versus, you know, other stuff. So, yeah, man, it's sort of no joke, but, you know, I got some serious hope. There's definitely some success. It's amazing how you see these boys turn around.
Right.
And when they come here and they're just lost, and then when you see that light bulb moment click, and then they get little wins, you get daily wins, and they stack on week wins, and next you know wins. It's just sort of like how you progress in your 40 plus years, how I progress in my 56 plus years, right? I mean, you just you stack those wins, and you know, you got to have a short-term memory. What do quarterbacks say in the NFL, right? Oh, I forget all this interception, right?
100%.
You got to forget it.
And so can you do me a favor, or the audience a favor? Can you talk first the negative, then the positive? Can you talk about maybe one of the moments that sticks out to you, one of the traumatic things that happened to one of your, assuming you can reveal that. And then can you talk about one of the wins, one of the success stories where you that sticks with you, that you remember, this is why I do what I do?
Yeah. So, I mean, the worst stories you could tell yourselves about what can happen to a kid happens to our boys back there. And so usually there's some sort of physical abuse along with mental abuse that's happened over time that has just calloused them towards acting right. And the thing about treatment paths for mental health is that they're opaque, right? You know, you're a former soccer player, right? I'm a former dude that's done physical stuff. I'm still a skydiver, surfer, yada, yada. If I hurt my knee, I know when it happened. I go get my knee, I go get an MRI, I go get a scope, I go get rehab. And then I know at this date, my knee's good to go and I can move on. That's not how the treatment path for mental health works. And so, but I love that the stigma's going away. One, I love that military dudes are talking about, hey man, I went and got some counseling and
that's right.
Got some help. It's good to go talk to a professional and get that support. And usually peer support's not good, especially when you're young, right? Like me and you, it's peer support, right? Like we sort of been through life a little bit. We've raised kids, we're raising kids, we're doing that type of stuff. So, you know, usually that advice is good, especially if somebody's got their life together and their finances together and their health together and all that. But you really got to go get professional help. And we haven't done that with mental health. And so these therapists are just amazing. My clinical director, Josh Nordine, his team is just unreal. And they just do deep, deep work, slow, methodical work with the boys to help them. They really heal themselves because they snap out of it. They see coping skills. They see it different. They take time to digest sort of what's happened to them. It's their rearview mirrors, not their windshield. That's another good thing about Attack Your Windshield, right? It's not about your rearview mirror. There's a reason why that thing's small and your windshield's so big, is that, you know, what's in front of you is so much better than what can be behind you in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
And so that's, you know, that's the crux of it.
I love that. In fact, one of our, for my company, one of our basically EVP, and he's kind of the portfolio, reports to our CEO. Brett Wall talked about that in a recent podcast about, you know, don't look in the rearview mirror. It's small. Look through your windshield. You got perspective. Yes. And it's just so much bigger. And I love that. You know, I think that this is a really, really important topic. And I love exactly what you just said. The fact that the stigma is being torn down, that it's okay to seek help. That, I mean, I got counseling in college, right? When I was going through some kind of tough times, the grades were slipping. It probably had something to do with a girl, usually does. And, you know, it was just down. And it was good to get to talk to a counselor. And it's the fact that that's like somehow not macho or somehow not cool or whatever it just needs to go away, because I think every one of us could use help, right? I mean, you've been married coming up on 30 years, right? We're about to celebrate 12, if my math is right. Yeah, 12. And there have been moments where my wife and I was like, hey, you know, we might need to talk to someone. And you know, we haven't, but it's okay. If it gets to that point, let's iron some stuff out. This is what professionals do. They're here for a reason. And, you know, if you're watching this, you're going through tough times, you're struggling, reach out to professionals, right? That's what they're here to do. And, you know, it's
yeah, so well said, man. And that's one of Meghan's and I's big passion, especially in the special operations community. Divorce rate is just so high. And we're like going, man, if we could do it, other people could do it. Look at these amazing couples and sort of life is fine. They lose the communication. They lose the intimacy with their relationship, that they just, all this stuff is work and you got to work at it. And so one of the things I did just before I retired, when I was a branch director, after I left Squadron Command, I went to the headquarters and got a branch, and we stood up a human performance optimization program. And really what we were trying to do, because we were in this dang war so long, is we were trying to get the guys back to the fight, you know, physically. And so we were putting athletic trainers and orthopedic surgeon priorities for surgery and that type of stuff. But the biggest benefit we got was from social workers and licensed counselors inside the squadron, that the Wise are coming, you know, the Wise Network's like, oh my God, this is so good. He's like sharing more than he used to because he's talking and all that. So then we expanded it to the Preservation of Force and Family, where we offered that counseling and that mental health support to the families. And it was just such a huge benefit to the morale and welfare of the force. So this is legit stuff. It's messy. It's painful to go through, and like mental pain and depressive pain is just as painful as any physical pain. But man, if you fight through it and you work the program, and there's just glory on the other side. There's just such happiness on the other side versus sitting in it and waiting for it to pass, because it's truly not going to pass. You know, you're just going to have fleeting happiness versus true joy to the core, no matter, you know, what I try to tell the staff here is, you know, when the staff asks me about joy versus happiness, I'm like, okay, let's say you're in a car accident. You rear end somebody or they rear end you. Let's say they rear end you. You get out of the car and yell at them, or do you get out of the car and go, man, are you okay?
Right.
Both, you know, it's going to be a pain in the ass to contact the insurance company, get the car fixed and all that. If you have joy, you're worried about somebody else. If you just have fleeting happiness, you're going to lose it. And then that anger or whatever is going to come back. It's about getting it inside your DNA and how you're living your life and how you're modeling proper behavior for others. That's really going to benefit.
So great point. I love that analogy, and it's spot on. How would you advise people to get that joy if they don't have it today?
Man, I use the 4 corners of clarity, man. Right. Yeah. I use, like, you got to sit down and be truthful with yourself and evaluate what you're weak at. And it's just a hard conversation. You got to journal. You got to take some notes, and like, who are you? Are you an extrovert? Yeah. Perfect, man. Right. Are you an extrovert? Okay. Well, then be introverted. Let some other people be an introvert. You know, you got to, you know, in surfing in town and country, there's this yin and yang, right? In Asian cultures, right? Of how you sort of work on all that cool ass Bruce Lee stuff that he used, you know, so good quotes from him, right? You just got to work on what you're not good at. Yes. And people avoid that, and you're just kicking the can down the road. 100%. And that's really what moving off the X, attacking your windshield's about. It's like, man, I'm going to work on stuff that I'm not good at. And before you know it, man, the rising tide's lifting all sorts of boats.
Yes.
You know, so
That's great. Great advice. And I would agree. Doing that right now, working on weaknesses, right? Finding them, asking for feedback, asking for people. Whenever I give a public speech or presentation to a group, you know, I'll seek out the advice of others and I'll ask, how did I do? You know, be honest. You know, I also will, if I can, record it and then watch the game tape, right? Watch the film, look for ways you can improve the message. Because I think it's important.
It's so huge. We used to role play, going back to that part task training and full mission profiles. We would do a ton of visualization of seeing it done right. You know, visualization is huge of seeing the win, seeing the success before you walk into the test, before you walk into an event, before you meet somebody new, all that. You know, of course, do your study. Luck favors are prepared. But, man, like see that success of what's going to happen. I knew we were going to get along, right? Because there was no doubt in my mind. Like, it's like, yeah, this guy's cool as shit. Yeah. Let's have a
conversation. But it's also because, like, I think there's a mutual respect, right? I see you and I see the things that you post. And as you said, they're positive, they're uplifting. You're getting people to think. You're creating, they call it the scroll stop, right? Where you look, I saw that picture and I'm like, I want to know more about that. Clicked on it, read exactly all this great advice that you're offering. And this is someone who's served in the military, been married 30 years, right? These are amazing things that you've done, Joe. And like, you know, even though we had never met, I think I'm grateful to be connected to you. And again, LinkedIn is what brought that. And so let's riff a little bit about LinkedIn, kind of like this new playground, if you will, of opportunity, of discovery, of self growth, whatever. What are your thoughts on the platform? Kind of where do you see it going? You know, kind of how are you using it today? Let's just talk about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, we just bought our forever home in Chattanooga, Tennessee. We finally found where we want to be and what we're doing. This was our 23rd move. And so especially, you know, the military made us move. And then 2016, after I retired, I'm lucky I have a 33-year pension as a lieutenant colonel. I don't need a job. I want a job. I'm too young not to work. You know, who can I help? I want to go out. I never wanted to hang my own shingle. I wanted to go out and be a good employee for somebody. I like team way better than sort of self. I wasn't a Facebook guy my whole time in. You know, I had a top secret clearance and special access and all that. Never wasn't on any social media. Never really saw the benefit of it. I don't even jump with GoPros or surf with GoPros anymore. I did for a little bit. And then I'm like, you know, I'd rather just be in the moment and worry about the shot and all that type of stuff. So, but one of the things I realize is, man, if you try to put in a resume and a cover letter, they already know who they want to hire internally. And so early on, as I was getting ready to retire and as I went through these transition organizations, it was all about network, get people to know you, get people to like you, get people to represent you. And then, oh, by the way, get that influence yourself so you can help others with that. And so that's why I think the network is so amazing. It's just, there's really not much fluff on there. I think there's some political boneheads on there and things of that nature. Yeah. I think they're very few and far between compared to, you know, what's on the other social media. So I have just enjoyed it. And I love looking up people's backgrounds and see what common interests are. And listen, folks, here's a foot stomp secret. You get energy and satisfaction from serving others. It is.
Yes, you do.
It is an amazing drug. And so LinkedIn, you see, like, especially you get new people on there or something like that, or somebody DM, hey, I'm not sure. I saw you transition well. Like, I have veterans contact me all the time, and I guess it's out there.
That's awesome.
Transitioned well. Dude, let me tell you where I screwed up. Let me tell you the mistake. So I built a little brief. Guys DM me. I get their email. Hey, we talk. I'll get on the call with them. This is what you should do. You got to check out geography. You got to check out industry. You got to check out company. You got to check out positions 1 or 2 below. You know, so I have sort of a thing that I do to help them out. And so I just think it's a great, great network. I get to meet, like, we connected through Joe, a post that Joe was doing. He's such a monster deliverer of information, right? Like, he's great. Like, but he's not a Tony Robbins type either. He's you know, and no rag on Tony. I mean,
no, yeah, but
Joe is like no kidding in it, and he's offering this information out where, like, I view Tony as a guy who's observed it, and he's spewing great information from what he's observed. Joe speaks to me because he's lived it, and so, man, this is fantastic with this guy.
Yeah. You're speaking about Joe Mullings, and absolutely agree. I mean, I don't know Tony Robbins, but I would imagine there've been some brand, there've been some, people that have helped develop it. Joe is just a real guy that I call a friend. I'm proud to call him a friend and a mentor today. And when I met him was pre-COVID, 2019, one of our industry events in Chicago, and he was followed around by a bunch of camera crews. And I remember kind of seeing him, and like, okay, that's that guy on LinkedIn. He's talking about industry. I think he's an executive recruiter. But when you talk to Joe, or when you, like, as you said, when you see some of the things that he puts out, it's fascinating because it makes you think. It creates a dialogue. He's got great experience launching companies, launching individuals, whatever. And, he's been a wonderful sounding board for me personally when was kind of going through some changes, on the professional side. And it's kind of developed into, similarly, he's got 2 boys. He's been married for a long time. Right. And it's just awesome to be connected to some of these people that I want to emulate, not to copy. Everybody's got their own thing. But I see things, and this is the same way that I started out my career, Joe. Like when I started in medical sales, it was with a gentleman by the name of Scott Noonkester, who had spent 17 years, I believe, in the Army, and then was a scrub tech. So handing instruments, passing instruments to the surgeons, and then moved into the sales side of that, working for industry, and was a nurse and a scrub. And so just a perfect person to learn from. To observe and to emulate my career. Actually, just talked to him earlier today. We keep in touch. Ironically, I hired him 10 years after being his associate. I hired him as my complex spine manager for the region back in my old role. And so it's been fun to stay connected, to stay working together. And what I told him today was, look, he, for me, showed me dependability, accountability, being punctual, doing things the right way. He never asked me to do anything that he wouldn't do as well. And so again, that comes from the military, right? They follow leaders that will get down in that foxhole with them, right? The military do. And one of the things that Scott and I we talk about is people that have served in the military, or maybe at a high level athletics. They do well in our industry in medical sales, or maybe any sales job, but they do well, Joe, I feel, and I'd love to get your perspective on this, is having consulted veterans and others. I feel they do well because they can compartmentalize, because they can take the stuff that hits the fan and stay cool and calm in the pocket and deliver guidance. A lot of times when we're in the surgeries are a dynamic living thing, and they change on the fly. And so you have to be able to have enough kind of calm and confidence in yourself and in the knowledge that you have based on your training, based on whatever experience, to guide through that tough time and offer solutions instead of clamming up and, going and hiding in the corner. And it's not for everyone.
No.
So
I think military members problem solve really well. And so I think for business development, I really think proper business development, right? If you're not, people think of cold calling and CRM tools, right? Filling out Salesforce and all that. It's really, how do you add value to a company that's buying your product, right? And it's all the different ways that you can do it. So what you just described there inside the OR, if things aren't going a certain way, you have 5 or 6 things in your toolkit that you can offer up. Hey, try it this way. I've seen it work this way. I've heard it work this way. What about this? It's being that sounding board for your customer, your client, to help them generate, the bottom line is, right, they're generating revenue, right? Like that doctor's going to bill for that service down the road, right, delivering that service that they can bill for and delivering it the right way. So I think military members, especially if they've, listen, society is what feeds military, right? A lot of, so not every veteran is the most squared away person in the world, man. Like, people need to vet who they're hanging around with, and veterans shouldn't be given a pass, right? Like, oh, you're a Green Beret, come on in, right? Oh, you're a paralyst, come on in. You were a Navy SEAL, come on in. That they may not be the right fit, but you definitely know they have some resilience to them. They have some get up early, stay up late in them, that they'll get it done type stuff. And the problem solving that people have had to do, I really think that adds well to not only business development, but operations in any type of industry. So
well said.
Yeah,
I would absolutely agree. And I think that's well said.
And they understand, one of the big things too is people think veterans don't understand capitalism. What veterans had to do, people in charge of money and people had to make readiness. And they're evaluated on, did you make more readiness this year than you did last year with the same budget? That's profit. Right? So did you put more cheese on the buffet? And oh, by the way, was it better cheese? And oh, by the way, how did you reduce, how did you save the taxpayer's treasure? And so if veterans don't have a story like that in their elevator pitch, as people are starting to get to know them, then I'd be like, this guy, maybe they did just feed off the milk, milk part of the government, right? So
sure, yeah.
But if that in their creative problem solving, if they have a story of like, oh yeah, we noticed this problem, this is what we did, we reduced man hours this way, we got this much more readiness, we added this capability for the same budget that we got in. That's somebody that understands receivables and payables.
Absolutely. You listen to Stanley McChrystal, he came and spoke a keynote speaker one time for our sales team, and was fascinating to hear him and hear about what he did with the joint, all the different groups, and kind of that, to your point, I mean, the ability to and this is one of the things that my good friend Pat talks a lot about, is teams, right? Cross-functional teams, because the only way we can survive and grow in a very competitive environment that we work in is leaning on the teams of others, right? Internal teams, external teams. And I think that the military do that very, very well. And,
if companies like, let's say just medical sales, whatever it is, cardiac catheters, or, of course, there's hundreds of different things, right? That you go out and sell, be inside the OR, and talk to physicians about the leadership, can-do gap, what that civilian company needs to fill that veteran, what they can give in leadership and problem solving, just because they may have a technical gap or an acronym gap or a specific skills gap, they're going to make that up in 30, 60, 90 days. And hopefully that company's playing the long game. So they go, man, what's this going to look like in a year? Not, man, can you add value to me in this first 30 days? Right. So I think, 100%. Especially in the special operations community and other key veterans communities, that it is an untapped resource that I think more HR departments should utilize.
No, I love that. I love hearing that.
Companies I've been in, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe you're solving problems like this. I can't believe you're moving people like this. I can't believe you've got the morale up the ways we do. We didn't have this before. And it's really blocking and tackling. Sure. It's doing that basic stuff right, but just consistently doing it and showing up and getting dirty, getting your hands dirty with people, so.
Well, and you've been in the fire, right? You've been with teams, and you know what it takes to succeed. And so it's like the little thing, the blocking and tackling, but it's also, I think, the camaraderie that comes with that, doing that together with others, right? Breeds. And I pride myself when I was a leader of 15 regional managers and sales managers. One of the things that was really important to me is team cohesion. And so how do you build that when everyone's living in a different city, different time zone? And during COVID, right? What do you do during COVID? And so we had, just a lot of different ways to tackle that, with whether it be team happy hours or just consistent video meetings. I mean, these aren't new things. Other people do them, but just staying consistent with them and not always being the manager to push down the information. More of it is just like, hey, what do you guys think? You guys and gals, what do you all think? And how should I roll this back up? And just because I'm your boss or your manager, that doesn't mean that I have the best ideas. Sometimes it's the opposite. Yeah. And so just building others up, and that builds trust, and that builds cohesion. I think that when your point of like how you're able to do these things from coming from the military is because you've likely seen really good leaders, right? And you got to lieutenant colonel, right? That doesn't just happen. Yeah. That's a long process.
Yeah. Yeah, we mentor everybody, but not everybody's groomed. And so usually somebody 1 or 2 ranks above you goes, man, I need to groom this guy or girl because they're really going to do something special. And so you appreciate those relationships. One thing your folks have to have, they have to meet you 50%, right? Like they have to show up, and how they meet you 50% is they got to be competent every day and they got to have a good attitude every day. And if there's a pattern of incompetency or bad attitude,
right,
for the team, you have to cut that person loose.
Absolutely.
Because if you keep that person around, the team's going to go, oh man, they really don't care about this person over here, right? Like, caring for the team is really making sure that the best people are around them. And
well said.
They have got to show up. That's, before I got to the positions I had in leadership, I was a team player. And you really, if you want to be a good leader, you better be a good team player. And these team players that think they're going to be good leaders when they're that's all they want, or not being in the moment of sacrificing and maybe going through some drills that they don't want to go through. But that's good effort as a team player that really needs to be there.
So well said. And, we're coming up on your time. I want to be respectful for your calendar, Joe. What is there anything else you'd like to, if people wanted to find out more information, maybe about what you're doing with the teens in the community, or veterans that maybe want to kind of learn more about like how to re-enter right into as civilians, like where would you point them?
Yeah, anybody can reach out to me on LinkedIn, Joseph Barnard, Barnard. Love connecting with people, and I'm responsive on my DMs. And then at the Forge School, we're forgertc.com, and we have a YouTube channel as well. There's a bunch of informational videos on there, and we're just here doing God's work, trying to do the right thing for these teen boys and these families. And it's just great. I mean, all the support I've gotten from everybody. Nobody goes to me going, what are you doing that for? It's exactly the opposite. Like, oh my God, it's needed so much. Because it's tough. Our residency staff back there who are developing the intimate relationships with the boys and doing day-to-day work, and they're on 12-hour shifts back there. It is tough. You get 12, 15, 20 dysregulated boys together. It's no joke on the techniques and procedures and how they move them.
Oh, yeah.
And all that. So I'm just so thankful that we have a staff here that we're up to 40, 48. I think we have 48 staff here now.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a great complex little operation. I'm just having a ball. And I get to work with Meghan. Meghan does admissions and marketing.
It's your wife, Meghan. Nice.
Yeah, we've never worked together. So that's just been awesome. And driving into work together and driving home together. It's just, I mean, I don't know what. Before you hit record, I said, man, everybody should have my life.
Yeah.
I'm telling man, I get to grow my hair out. I get to skydive and surf still. I get to surf.
Living.
Everybody should have my life, dude.
I love it. And I'm so glad that we're connected. You're living it, and you're living proof of you are doing God's work, you and your wife. You guys are doing a great thing for the community. I'm grateful that we connected, and this won't be the last time that we communicate.
Oh, buddy,
thank you so much.
I'm buying you bourbon sometime, man. We're gonna share.
Let's absolutely do that. Speaking of, I'll look for dates to come to Chattanooga, to Tennessee, because it's a
what a town,
wonderful part.
People haven't been to Chattanooga. It is an amazing town.
It's great. My brother lives in Versailles, Kentucky, so not too far away. We were just talking about wanting to come back up, and it's just I think Kentucky, Tennessee, it's a great pace of life.
Yeah,
I like it. I really do like that part of. And I mean, Nashville, I know it's completely different than Chattanooga, but I live in Austin, and I believe Austin, Nashville, and maybe one other city during the COVID slowdown, the airlines got together and they did some research. Apparently, this is a Wall Street Journal article about where people are flying into and out of, and it's Nashville and Austin. So fortunately, we're getting more flights and more direct flights, which is nice.
I'll introduce you, man. I didn't know you were in Austin. I forgot. Yes, I knew you were there, man. The Talent War Group guys are in Austin. Mike Sorelli, former Navy SEAL, George Randall. They're amazing dudes. I'll introduce you guys on LinkedIn. They're just awesome dudes to get to know.
I would love that. Absolutely. And, I know there's a good community here. I know, Pat Dawson and his wife, Kim, Kim used to live here. So I think there's quite a bit. They're former friends here, maybe some of the same circles that you're mentioning.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
would love to meet them. I can't wait to help in any small way bring more people, to the Forge school, because it's just, once I heard about it and read a little bit about it, I just knew that we needed to talk, and I'm glad that we connected. So thanks so much, and appreciate you and all that you're doing. And I hope that people have enjoyed this episode. Whether it's the Sultans of sales or maybe in this case the Sultans of service. Joe, it's been a pleasure, and thank you so much for being on. So I'm gonna hit.
We're selling the amazing windshield of life here. That's good. There you go.
That's it, man. I mean, everybody's a sultan in their own right, or a sultaness. Yeah. But I'm gonna push stop on here, and then we'll close things out. Thanks you guys for joining. We'll see you next time.